Hello students, the experiment is a nuclear magnetic resonance or shortly called NMR. The objective of this experiment is to determine the nuclear G factor of a nucleon. It is based on magnetic properties of the atomic nucleus. NMR has become a powerful analytical tool in research. It was discovered by Pasil and Bloch in the year of 1945. So nucleus possesses an intrinsic nuclear spin I. Apart from the total angular momentum J, which is basically L plus S, an atom also has nuclear spin angular momentum I. The corresponding magnetic moment is mu, which is equal to G mu n I. Here G is a nuclear G factor, which is to be determined in this experiment. Mu n is the nuclear magneton. So in the atomic physics, we have already read about the Bohr magneton, right? Which is equal to EH cut by 2me, and it is mu b. Bohr magneton is mu b, that is EH cut by 2me. Is the elementary charge. What is H cut? H cut is the reduced Planck constant, that is H by 2 pi, right? Me is the rest mass of the electron, but mu n is the nuclear magneton. Okay, so mu n would be EH cut by 2mb, that is in place of me, mp would be there. As the value of mp is many greater than that of me, that is mass of the proton is greater than mass of the electron, right? So naturally mu n would be of lower value. So the values of mu n is around 5.05 into 10 to the power minus 27 joule per Tesla in SI unit, whereas mu b is equal to 9.27 into 10 to the minus 24 joule per Tesla. So mu b must be greater than mu n, right? So that is why in atomic, nuclear response is much more weaker than the atomic one. Now if the magnetic field is applied externally, spin can have 2i plus 1 possible orientations of different energies. In absence of magnetic field, these energies are same. So in presence of magnetic field, the energy levels corresponding to different I basically split, as we have already read in the Zeeman effect, right? So each level is characterized by a magnetic quantum number, that is m, and the corresponding energies would be Em is equal to minus mu dot b. So Em would be basically minus G mu n b m. The value of m go from minus I to plus I with the interval of 1. So it would be minus I plus 1, minus I plus 2, minus I minus 2, I minus 1, and I. Right. So a nucleus with spin half will have two orientations. One is minus half and one is plus half. Here m is equal to plus half corresponds to ground state energy, and m is equal to minus half corresponds to the excited state energy. And the energy corresponding to m is equal to plus half is lower. The energy is lower for m is equal to plus half than that of the for m is equal to minus half, right? So what would be the difference in m? Delta m would be half minus of minus half, so it is basically 1. That is why the energy difference would be delta E would be G mu n B, right? the initial populations of the energy levels would be as per Boltzmann constant, Boltzmann distribution. As we have read that N1 is equal to N0 e to the power minus delta E by kT, where N1 N1 is the excited state and N0 is the ground state. So N1 is the population for corresponding to M is equal to minus half, that is in the excited state, and N0 is the population corresponding to M is equal to plus half. Now ground state population would be greater than the excited state and it is dependent on the value of B, the magnetic field, and the temperature T, right? So when an amount of energy G, mu and B would be supplied to the ground state, and energy will be absorbed by the absorbed and moved to the excited state, the transition will happen till the population would be same, but it is a continuous process, right? Because the excited state, there is a lifetime which is very low. For M is equal to plus half, the magnetic moment is basically aligned with the field, okay, and M is equal to minus half is opposing to the field, okay. Now, as we have already learned that the nucleus has a spin angular momentum I, and there would be a torque tau. So tau is equal to mu cross B, right? So tau would be G, mu and I cross B. So tau would be perpendicular to I, right? So when magnetic field is present, the axis of rotation would precess around the magnetic field. As you can see in the picture, the frequency of the precession would be Larmor frequency, right? It is called Larmor frequency, and the value would be nu is equal to G mu B, nu is equal to G mu n B, not B, mu B. Mu B is Bohr magneton. Here mu n would be there. So nu is equal to G mu n B by H, which is basically identical to the delta E by H. That is the energy difference between the two states over the Planck's constant, right? So when the incident photon bombarding with the specimen or the sample we are using having exact energy, that is delta E equal to G mu n B, which is the energy difference between the ground state, that is corresponding to the plus half, M is equal to plus half, and excited state, that is corresponding to the M is equal to minus half. Resonance will occur. So this is the condition of the resonance, that is the energy of the incident photon must be equal to the energy difference of the two states, that is delta E. So when when resonance occurs, the energy of the photon would be absorbed by the specimen and transition will occur from ground state to the excited state, right? So this is the background story of NMR. Now move to the experimental arrangement. We will use Jaworski's techniques in our experiment. The method is based on the changes in the load factor of the oscillatory circuit. Okay, so the specimen is placed in an induction coil. The induction coil is a part of the tank circuit or tank coil of the oscillator. When the sample absorbs the power from the oscillator, watt load delta W changes. These changes will lead to the changes in the base current, that is delta IB, or the collector current or delta IC,
which can be determined. So this dW, that is watt load, the changes in watt load will be proportional to delta IB or delta IC, which is basically base current, the changes in base current and changes in collector current correspondingly, right? But provided this proportionality will hold, provided the absorption is small enough compared to the total loss. Okay, so we'll use these techniques. This technique is called Jaworski's technique. Okay, so there are 3 units in this instrument. In unit 1, radio oscillator is there. The frequency can be adjusted with high sensitivity. In unit 2, 2 permanent magnets are placed. Okay, 2 permanent magnets are placed. The magnetic field in the center is at about 5.02 kilogauss. So you can understand it is quite a high magnetic field. A pair of Helmholtz coils are mounted over the permanent magnets. And inside magnetic field, the inductance of the tank coil of the RF oscillator is mounted. So there are 3 parts in a unit 2. 2 permanent magnets are there, and 2 Helmholtz coils are mounted over permanent magnets, and the induction of the tank coil of the RF oscillator is mounted, okay, in the uniform field. Now move to unit 3. So in unit 3, 50 Hz sweep unit is there. The Larmor frequency of the sample is modulated with this 50 Hz through Helmholtz coil. Okay, and a phase shifter is there, and this phase shifter is used to make XY mode in the oscilloscope, and one frequency display. So the frequency of the RF oscillator will be displayed in the unit 3.